When you invest close to 60 hours into a game, the very least you would expect is a complete and satisfying ending, one that provides closure on the character's quest and answers any questions that were left unanswered. Xenoblade's ending, while I love it, gets kind of a little weird. And by weird, I mean it goes full sci-fi! Zanza and Maynath are originally scientists, whose experiment caused the universe to be destroyed and recreated into the Xenoblade world, the two of them being reborn as the gods Bionis and Mechonis. Also, the mysterious character Alvis, who we had lots of questions about, was actually an AI the whole time, the reborn form of the main operating computer that ran that experiment who maintains order in this new universe. What? Despite this odd turn of events, everything else about the ending is excellent. In unleashing his true abilities in the form of the True Monado and slaying Zanza, Shulk rises to the standing and power of a god, his wishes and desires being the ones that will shape and decide the passage of fate and the entirety of the universe. Unsure of the right choice, he reflects on his quest and beliefs with the help of his friends, and makes the right choice, to reshape the world into one where everyone's fates and future are determined by their own decisions and desires, no predetermined destiny or outcomes, accomplishing this by relinquishing all of his powers and ridding the world of gods. We then transition to the Wish's aftermath, the world being reconstructed with the help of all the people of this new world, the lives of our characters after the end of their journey, and the greatest bit of it all, Fiora getting her body back, able to live her life to the fullest with Shulk by her side. Watching this ending for the first time at 4 AM in total darkness and silence, it was something magical. The resolution to this colossal story for the characters and events, coupled with visuals and music working to the highest degrees, gives this masterpiece a truly satisfying ending. We may be unable to see what's to come, but whatever comes, we'll face the future together. Man, so many people hate Mumkar, and yeah, I can't really argue against that. He's a pretty despicable character, betraying his closest friends and comrades in pursuit of power, relishes in inflicting pain and suffering on the characters, and at his core is a spineless and selfish piece of shit. I do hate Mumkar like all you guys probably do as well, but you know what? I love Metalface. Monado, boy! Mumkar is an unlikable piece of shit, I get that, but I've always viewed his persona as Metalface in a different light, so much so that I love it every time he appears on the screen. From his first appearance during the attack on Colony 9, you can't deny that he makes one huge first impression. I mean, design and all, he's absolutely badass, intimidating face, massive claws, and just a powerful presence, destroying so much of the colony with relatively little effort, and even making a show out of it a lot of the time. However, that ain't why he's awesome to me. Listen to his voice.
Sorry we're late to the party. What do you think of our leader's gift?
His delivery is so good! You can tell that Tim Watson was just having a ball in the recording booth with these lines.
Aha! Looks like we have our first contestant!
Almost every line that comes out of his mouth I just find so quotable, and I find myself randomly saying some of his lines a lot of the time.
Would you be so kind and hand over that dangerous toy you have? What's that? The insects are a little confused.
I just have a ball every single time this metal bastard shows up. He makes it so much fun. He's horrible in characteristics, but oh so entertaining in character. All you need to hear is the beginning of this music to get hyped up. Let's hit it! This grand spectacle of a moment after beating the Ether Mine is one I'm sure a lot of you are nodding your heads in agreement with right now. A moment I'm going to refer to as Unfinished Battle. So much incredible stuff happens in this short space of time. We get Metalface's grand return with an awesome line on a convenient cue.
Hope I'm not interrupting.
Then we get one of the most amazing moments of Shulk in the whole game.
Talk all you want, because those words will be your last!
That delivery just gives me chills. Despite the awesomeness of that line, the best part of this is what comes next. The return of the hero of the Homs, Dunban. You're probably missing this suave and cool as fuck badass from earlier in the game, and what better way for him to make his reappearance by animating down a vertical cliff to start chopping down Mechon to save your sorry asses. You don't even need a big glow stick to take these guys down anymore. It's hard to even describe this scene, almost everything is in the visuals. I mean, freaking look at this stuff! The action is so intense and fast-paced, complemented by every single tinge of charm and passion in the dialogue, so much that I can barely explain it. The biggest thing here for me at least that makes this moment utterly unforgettable is the music. A piece of music that plays once in the entire game, simply entitled Unfinished Battle. Just freaking listen. No words for that. That music speaks for itself. This whole scene is bloody unforgettable. Perfect way to bring Dunban back. I've probably already said enough times how great all the locations in Xenoblade are, but one thing I don't think I expanded enough on is how day and night affects their appearances. Your eyes are drawn to changes, the atmosphere reshapes itself, almost the entire characters of locations can be shifted simply with the passage of time. No location shows this off more than Valak Mountain. During the day it's pretty nice, white snow on the rocks and cliffs with a suitable mood and tone, nice and effective but nothing outstanding. But when night rolls in, it becomes a wonderland. What can I even say? What can I possibly say to describe this unbelievable beauty? The very first time the clock rolled over and night set in, being honest, I was frozen in place, just in awe at this. The daylight Valak Mountain was nice, but didn't really have much to make it stand out from other snow areas in games I've played. This is the complete opposite. The golden glow of the ether crystals reflecting off the white snow, illuminating this landscape and providing a level of unique color texture and an astonishingly gorgeous palette of colors. It's so pretty! I'm like actually struggling to explain why this is my favorite area in the game. I can't describe it. I could easily just forego the story and just wander this mountain for hours. It's just so mesmerizing. Look at the screen and see it for yourself. It's just wow. Also, listen. Every time I'm here, I refuse to let it stop being night. Valak Mountain at night is so elegantly and indescribably beautiful that seeing it in any other way is a letdown. No other location, no matter how great, can match this place in my eyes. What a masterpiece of an area. Freaking outstanding. I mentioned this in passing, but Egil is a fantastic character. Out of all the antagonists in the game, he's easily the most fleshed out and interesting villain of the lot of them. He's menacing and imposing, but also relatable and understandable. A character compelled by a lust for revenge and a hatred of the Bionis, almost like a mirror image of Shulk from the first arcs of the game. And the grand build-up of this villain is culminated in what's set up as the final battle of the game, the fight against him in his face Yaldabouth in the Mechonis core. I went into detail on this fight in a prior video, so I'm going to be a bit more brief this time. The driving element in this fight is exactly what is at stake here. With Egil in control of the entire Titan of Mechonis, the entirety of Bionis is at risk, every single person on your homeland at the mercy of Egil's power. If you fail in this fight, you know that all the people you have met on your journey and everyone you care about are going to die. This dramatic, intense feeling drives this entire battle, you and your party members desperately striking him with every ounce of your strength as he barrages you with attacks and Mechon to hold you back. All this tension is culminated when a vision occurs, depicting Egil using an attack that literally destroys the entirety of Bionis, you having to race around the arena and destroy the energy sources attached to him to prevent the attack from occurring, feeling your heart racing as the timer decreases in the corner as you frantically try to save your home. This boss fight is one that has all the narrative and character impact that I think is Xenoblade's greatest strength in boss fights, but this fight against Yaldabaoth comes packaged with some great gameplay as well. I can barely fault this boss fight. It's full of energy and intensity, the narrative elements present drive it home, the fight itself is very solid, and is the perfect would-be final boss fight. There is one more boss fight to talk about on this list, but we'll get to that later. These next 3 entries are going to have a common theme, just letting you guys know that ahead of time. This is the moment that I realized how much I like this game. The moment I'm sure a lot of us realized how much we like this game, and it occurs so early in the story. You know what it is. Fiora's death. This moment, this freaking moment. What this moment achieves is a marvel of storytelling and video game immersion. Sure, this is the point where one of the pivotal characters, Fiora, a likable and awesome character in both story and combat, as well as Shulk's romantic interest, is killed by one of the pivotal villains to set up the progression of the story, but what makes it so strong is how it's presented. The use of camera angles, the music, the powerful and fantastic voice acting, everything makes this such a colossal moment, especially more when we consider the setup and the immersion we experience as a player when playing this part. This is right after Shulk has first drawn the Monado and discovered his ability to see into the future, using that power to his advantage to best the Mechon. When Shulk, along with Ryan and Dunban, are pinned down by Metalface, Fiora rushes in the mobile artillery to save them. Shulk is then presented with the first vision of someone other than himself, graphically watching as Fiora is brutally killed by Metalface. Despite this warning of danger, Shulk can do nothing. We, as the player, can do nothing. We are gifted with this warning of disaster, but with no means to prevent it. We are forced to watch her die. Not once, but twice. The impact still staying true even the second time around. You feel completely weak and powerless, even after Shulk climbs to his feet with a ferocious roar of a proclamation.
I'll kill you!
You still can't beat Metalface. He takes the one so important to you away, but you're still not strong enough to win. And then he just leaves, leaving you to wallow in your sorrow. You are 100% put into the mindset of Shulk in this moment, your emotions being his emotions with all the sadness and disbelief that comes with it. All this anguish and sorrow is what paves the rest of this amazing game. Like I literally just said, the pain of losing Fiora is what drives forth Shulk's quest to destroy the Mechon, this in turn becoming our motivations as a player, immersing ourselves into this character. We thirst for revenge against Metalface, wanting to become strong enough to finally destroy him and make him pay for the horrors he has committed, just as Shulk does. This is all we desire for the first part of the quest, avenging Fiora's death. But at the midpoint of the game atop Prison Island, just as we're about to get everything we've desired and watch Metalface die, another face called Face Nemesis intervenes. And we have the rug pulled out from beneath us. We discover 2 pivotal things in this moment. That Face Mechon are immune to the Monado because they're biomechanically fused with Homs who operate as pilots, and more importantly, Face Nemesis is piloted by Fiora. Not only is the girl whose death propelled the entire story so far actually alive, but she has been turned into an android to pilot a face on the enemy's side. This is such a huge kick in the goddamn teeth. Sure, maybe there were some hints sprinkled throughout the game before this that hinted at this twist, but first time playing Xenoblade, I had no clue. I only knew it was Fiora a few seconds before she pulled up her visor, and I was in sheer disbelief. I oddly didn't want it to be Fiora. The story up until this point, aside from the war on Mechonis and various other moments, has been entirely about one thing: Shulk trying to overcome his grief of losing Fiora, the girl he loves. And just when he is finally about to get closure, to finally come to terms with her death by slaying her murderer, he finds her alive. Despite the relief and joy you'd imagine we'd feel of seeing her alive again, it's twisted and warped in such a way that it's heart-wrenching. Putting all this crummy emotional stuff aside, this moment is so well written, so well presented, and so goddamn impacting. That's all that needs to be said. And just like how Fiora's death propelled the initial drive of the story, her reappearance drives the next chapter of the story. As you probably guessed, the 3 entries I was talking about all have something in common: Shulk and Fiora's relationship. You guys know it. I adore the relationship these two have. So greatly established and greatly adorable, I must say, right from the get-go, and really does drive so much of the game's narrative. We've talked about the moment where the two are separated for seemingly forever, the moment where her fate is revealed, and now, the best moment of the three, the moment they are reunited. This little cutscene, well, a series of cutscenes, are probably what made me the happiest in the entire game. In trying to protect, trying to avenge, and trying to help one another, the two undergo so much hardship, pretty much both figuratively and literally dying for one another. And down on the fallen arm, in complete isolation from the rest of the world, Shulk and Fiora are finally brought back together. There's just so much I love about these few cutscenes, even though there's literally no action or anything in the mix of them. It's all about the emotions and feelings of the two characters, the joy the two feel when they meet again after so long being so intoxicatingly happy. You really feel that these two have been apart for such an incredibly long time, both desperately searching for the other. The genuine joy you feel of these two characters finding one another again is powerful enough, but more so now the convictions the two have to stay together. Emotions and passion runs wild in this scene, the chemistry and history between the two so crisp and so heartwarming that I can't help but not love these scenes. And as much as I may be embarrassed to say, when they have their little kiss, I may have had a bit of a squee moment. My inner shipper just upgraded itself to a luxury cruiser. In the end, this moment is just so goddamn adorable. After all the terrible trials the two kids from Colony 9 have to endure, it's just so sweet and so lovely to see the two of them together at the end of it. Sometimes your inner shipper just wins. Here we are, ladies and gents, my favourite boss fight in this game. Not only is this what I consider to be the greatest boss in the game, I also consider this to be the greatest final boss I've ever faced in all of gaming. The soul of the Bionis and the creator himself, Zanza.
You are all doomed!
Ooh, baby. I've already gushed to an absurd degree about this boss in a previous video, and by Jove, I'm gonna do it again! After making his proper debut following the fight with Egil, Zanza and his underlings cause so much destruction and inflict so much pain onto the people and world you spent all this time protecting, forcing you to watch as all you fought for is destroyed right in front of you. Pushing past all physical and emotional hardships as well as every wave of Zanza's forces, you've finally come face to face with him, ready for one final showdown that will determine the fate of the entire universe. Every single element of this final confrontation is simply marvelous. The build-up and narrative significance is utterly massive, the aesthetics of the arena and appearance of Zanza is intimidating and daunting in scale and power, the music that accompanies this fight is absolutely godlike, and most importantly, the fight in and of itself is spectacular. Dual-wielding both Monados, Zanza will gladly barrage you with some of the most powerful and devastating attacks you will see in the entire game, from summoning smaller guardians of himself to face you, attacking you with black holes, giant blasts of pure energy, and just laying waste to you with twin blades, making this a fight that is definitely a challenge to overcome. And linking in the additional impact of Bionis/X from the fight with Yaldabaoth, the additional impact of this fight is that visions do not occur automatically since you are fighting literally the wielder of the passage of fate, having to perform a quick time event for every vision to simply see the attack in advance. From my perspective, I have two major experiences of this boss from two major playthroughs. In my first playthrough, this final boss was amazing since I was horrifically bad at the game, getting beaten down constantly by him and having to throw myself at him more times than I care to count, making him truly feel like the ultimate being that I had to struggle and persevere to overpower. But as a more experienced player on my second playthrough, I had a more rewarding experience, cycling through every single one of my party members through every phase of the fight, bringing down this so-called god with the combined power of my party, utterly flattening him with the power of each party member and the affinity they shared. This fight is outstanding in so many unbelievable ways, and is my favorite final boss fight in all of gaming. But there is a moment in this game that I consider to be the greatest of them all. I mentioned right at the very beginning of this countdown that my favorite moments would range from a few seconds of gameplay to almost an hour of cutscenes and events. Well, it's time for that hour. the moment in all of Xenoblade that I consider to be the most memorable, impacting, and emotional is the events following Mechonis Core. All of them. I considered originally breaking this up into all the individual parts I loved, but that'd take up the majority of the list, so we just have everything here as number 1. Just when it seems that once again the story's come to an end, Egil having been defeated and agreeing with Shulk to embark towards peace between Bionis and Mechonis, we get a true big slap across the face as the true antagonists reveal themselves, Dixon being a traitor and a disciple of Zanza, the real mastermind behind every point of this story. And in doing so, set about ripping apart everything you love and everything you've worked towards right before your very eyes. Shulk, Maineth, Egil, the entirety of Mechonis, Callian, and almost the entire Hyantian race, all either killed or horrifically treated and tortured as you watch on helplessly and powerlessly. Even when you're given instances of gameplay in these moments, you are just as powerless as in the cutscenes, either fighting a losing battle or simply running for your lives. It's hard to even put into words how painful and sickening these whole events are, enough to make you literally break down into tears from shock and grief. We even find the grief and helplessness of the characters apparent even after escaping Zanza's wrath. Shulk in a coma and Leonada's surgery, the allied forces pushed into a corner against Zanza's forces, and worst of all, Fiora slowly dying again with the lack of Maineth's Monado. But you know what they say, it's in our darkest and lowest moments that we find the strength to overcome the odds. These events are what test the tenacity and breaking point of our characters, but no matter how hard Zanza tries to beat down the people of Bionis, the heroes will continue to fight to achieve their own destiny. I mean, Shulk literally cheats death and brings himself back to life simply to defy the fate laid out by Zanza, and returns to the fray in one of the most awesome junctures in the game. With this awesome display of fortitude and resistance, they repel Zanza's forces and pledge to defeat him to save their world once and for all. This whole pretty much hour-long sequence of events is just an insane roller coaster of emotions. Never in my life have I gone through so many emotions in such a short amount of time. From shock, to sadness, to pain, to helplessness, to anger, and even a supreme sense of determination and pride by the end. And I'm not afraid to admit that I cried so many times over the course of this hour, no matter how many times I play through Xenoblade. This beautifully and perfectly sets up the motivations and story of the final chapter of the game, and just manages to be one of the most immersing and moving moments I've ever experienced in a video game. I'm the Speedster, and Xenoblade Chronicles is a game that if you haven't played, need to go and play right now. This game needs to be played to be believed.